Yeah. What's up?
How's it?
How's it going? Yeah, it's going pretty good. What do you call it? Happy St. Patrick's Day to
Yes,
you.
indeed. Happy St. Patty's Day. Patron saint of prostitutes? No. That's St. Nicholas.
No,
Yeah, that's Santa
that's Saint
Claus.
Nick. Let's see.
Who's
We'll see.
Patrick? Who's St. Patrick, the patron saint? Is it animals? No, that's St. Francis.
Saint Francis. That's my alma mater for high
Yeah, that's
school.
St. Francis.
Let's see. I will look it up right now. You would think that we would be better prepared, but no, we're not, and that's okay. He is the patron saint of. I don't know. It didn't give it to me. Hello.
It's me.
Uh, hello. Is it me you're looking for?
Yeah.
Um, what does St. Patrick protect you from? Apparently, part of it is virtues of the natural world.
So he's the
But
patron
let's see.
saint of virtue? That doesn't make sense to me. Like, no, like, okay, so like, Saint Nicholas was the patron saint of prostitutes. Like, that was like his thing. Like, the thing he did in his life is he like protected the whores or something like that. I can't remember exactly. And then
Yeah.
like patron saint of animals, Saint Francis, uh, Valentine's Day, Saint Valentine. Like his thing was like the patron saint of like lovers. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah.
Um.
I'm like,
Let's
I don't
see.
know. Catholicism is a little interesting.
It very much so is when it comes to sainthood and anything outside. Because I feel like because I was born and raised Catholic,
Hmm.
and interestingly enough, it was more so along the lines of like there was a lot of in-depth knowledge of things that I didn't understand why there was a lot of in-depth
Yeah, no,
knowledge of
like
things.
I
Um,
don't understand. Okay, so like basic Christianity is, the Holy Trinity, right? The God the Father, God the Son, and God the
yeah,
Holy Spirit, right? Like they
mm,
are a three-person, one-person being that encompasses all things, that are all powerful, all knowing, ever present, and omnibenevolent, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
so that's like the basis of like all Judaism is around that.
yeah,
Like, like
yeah,
basic. And then we have saints, which only exist under like certain like sects of Catholicism and like sometimes in like other things. And then you have prophets, which only certain people consider certain people prophets. And then like it's all really convoluted and really weird. Ultimately, just to say that everything else doesn't matter so long as you believe that the all three in one being that is the Holy Trinity of one threeness is the
right.
all above all.
Which is under
Yeah,
oneness. Yeah.
like
Um, and
everything else doesn't matter so long as that one above all is all above one is above you.
are you talking about God? Or are you talking about the Three Musketeers?
All for one, one for all. No, I was actually talking about My Hero Academia, but like,
Oh, got you. Um,
oh, so Katie
um,
has a crazy awesome theory about that I will bring her on maybe next episode. No, she probably won't be.
next recording.
Yeah, we'll have to like do a day when she's here where we can get a recording with her so that she can explain her theory on how that needs to go for it to work correctly.
Okay, you're talking about My
Yeah,
Hero,
about
correct?
My Hero, not about like Jesus
Okay,
Christ.
okay, okay. I was gonna say because we were talking about God and church and state for a second, and I brought up the Three Musketeers, and then now we're talking about My Hero. So I'm just trying to follow the train of thought
Yeah, no, we're not
because
talking about
as
like a
much
fluffy
nonsense.
nougaty chocolate bar.
Okay, cool. Um, no, that when that happens, that'll be great.
Yeah, yeah,
We'll
no,
do that.
we
I'm
definitely.
I'm excited to have her on. I'm excited to have her on because I know that she will have a lot to say because even for the brief periods of time that we get to see her, I get to see her, there's always something she wants to say. So, it's like I wonder where she got that from or got the acknowledgement of, "Hey, let's do it." Yeah, so
Yeah. No, it's gonna happen.
Your influence.
It's gonna happen. Special episode. Probably gonna be a special release as well. Like a secondary release or something during a week. So, yeah.
Yeah, not a problem. But coming back full circle, the patronage, I was able to look it up. He is the patron saint of engineers and those afraid of snakes or protection against snake bites. So the reason why snakes are important is because that's one of the main reasons why that's one of his stories of being a saint, was that he drove snakes off of the island of Ireland. Yeah, not very many people know that, because most people associate St. Patrick's Day with little leprechauns and pot of gold
Drinking.
and Irish whiskey. And
Drinking.
I was gonna get there. I was gonna get
like
there.
just copious amounts of alcohol consumption.
And green.
And
Don't forget
green.
green. And luck. And
Yeah.
luck. Which, I mean, the luck part goes along with a lot of Irish culture. But to be honest, St. Patrick's Day is my favorite holiday.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Interestingly enough. And most people are like, why is it your favorite holiday? Is it because you drink? I mean, yes, I love Irish whiskey, but that is not the reason why I love St. Patrick's Day. It baffles me that this patron saint of, against snakes and engineering
For engineering
is celebrated.
against snakes. Just to clarify, patron saint of engineers against snakes.
Oh yeah, snake people. We have to prevent ourselves. We have to protect ourselves from it.
Yeah, under the Denver airport, the snake people.
Yeah, exactly. And I was about to do South Park's crab people. Anyway, but yeah, it's just such a weird holiday for me because I mean I'm Filipino, and our holidays go along with the Catholic Church and whatnot because most of the Philippines is Catholic, and I knew of the story of St. Patrick, driving away snakes off the island, and then finding out that St. Patrick's Day is all about wearing green. You get pinched if you wear green. 4-leaf clover means that you're incredibly lucky and it'll bring you good luck. There are really short mythical people called leprechauns. And if you chase the end of a rainbow, you find a pot of gold.
Yeah, which is
and
probably
all
like
of that
really
baffled
crazy
me.
because in the Philippines they're not terribly tall either. So like, the mythically smaller than Filipino people.
Yeah, and also at the same time too, I'm an anomaly because I'm 6'5".
Yeah, exactly.
So
Well, like, have you ever been like to the Philippines? You've been like,
yeah. Funny enough, I'm actually supposed to be there around this time. I was supposed to be there from March 10th to the 30th. But I ended up having other priorities that got into the way of making this trip, so unfortunately not. And the trip was actually meant for my great-grandmother's 102nd because she turned 100 in 2020, but as we all know, what happened in 2020? Yeah, COVID happened. We actually share, when she's in the Philippines and I'm here in the States, we actually share a birthday. My birthday is March 27th. Hers is the 28th.
oh, because the international dateline
Time zone. Yeah, so like there's like maybe I think a 6 to 8 hour period where both our birthdays overlap. It's nighttime for her and it's early morning for me, and so or other way around.
It's early. It's
other way
early
around.
morning for her and nighttime for you.
And nighttime for me, and so during that time I usually call her or FaceTime her.
You say happy birthday.
Wish her
to
happy
each other.
birthday.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, pretty much. And going to the Philippines, like for that trip, she was so pissed because of lockdown, international lockdowns, and
Well,
all
I
of
mean,
that, and
she's
the
lived
pandemic.
through
Right?
like what is that? 2 world wars.
Pretty much, yeah.
Like the tail end of one world war. Like she was born in the tail end of one world war, and then like freaking lived through the Second World War, and then like all of the shit that happened in like Vietnam and the Cold War, and like
Yeah, she's
like she ain't afraid.
she deserves
wouldn't
the
be
best.
afraid of shit. Like, I can't imagine her honestly being afraid of anything. Like with the sheer amount of history she's seen, like.
Yeah, she deserves to be pissed. And the funny thing is that a lot of my family they like to tease her to keep her sprightly, and they would always tease her. It's like, hey, are you going to Jay's birthday party? Obviously, it's going to be a freaking, she's been around for 100 years. It's obviously her
Mm-hmm.
birthday, but she also plays along as like, no, it's she's a brat. And if you want to get all astrological and horoscopic, she's also an Aries. So it's like, no, it's my
Yeah,
birthday.
no, that
It's
is
all about me,
pretty typically Aries, so that makes sense.
right? Right. Fortunately, I know I have Aries, like quote unquote, like Aries
Mm-hmm.
tendencies, but apparently I'm different. I'm built
Mm-hmm.
different. So whatever. But yeah, so we would joke around. They would joke around her about that, which I thought was, funny because I'm just like, why would you harass an old lady like that? I'm like, that's
No,
not cool.
but like
But then
honestly
it's
speaking, if you get to that age and you can't take a joke, like I don't think
right.
you've like I don't think anyone without a sense of humor makes it that long. Cuz
No,
like
not
they
at all.
either die at the end of like a gun or they die at the bottom of a bottle. Like you can't live that long without a sense of humor.
Yeah. And the thing about it too is that she is incredibly sane still. Like, although some of her actions say otherwise, she went horseback riding at 92. So, like there are some things like,
Okay,
all
there's
right,
there's a difference
but
between like mental cognizance and like being able to like be 100% there and then
yes, we know
choosing
this.
to have
We know
fun.
this. Yeah, no, we know this, Caleb. But that's the joke. That's where I'm going along with this. But the thing is that she's incredibly sharp. She remembers all of her great grandkids, all of her grandkids. I like to say I'm the favorite of the great grandkids. I mean, I was the oldest, and I was the first one for like I think like 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I was the one. She actually moved from the Philippines to the States to take care of me when I was like super itty bitty, and then when more of my cousins in the Philippines were starting to be born, that's when she
Yeah.
left. So yeah, it was a weird transition, but I'm actually in her room. My room that I'm
Hmm.
in was her room at some point.
Gotcha.
But
So do you
yeah,
have to like
but yeah,
step down to get into like places when you go to the Philippines because they all build their houses around 5'4" people?
I mean they still have standard door sizes, but yes, there are plenty of places where I have to crouch down. One of my favorite things to do is go to a mall in the Philippines because I look like a celebrity when I'm there just because I'm over 6 feet
Yeah,
tall.
no, like I can only imagine
One,
like all the people like going about their normal day, then all of a sudden fee fi fo fum.
yeah, I'm pretty much like a full head above almost everyone at in the Philippines whenever we're in public. Um, One of the few things that I learned was that you become a hot commodity of three things. One, you're tall. Two, you're white. Or three, you're American. And if you have any two of those three, you know, people will find out real quick, and people will try to get at you. There was a time where I went to a bar with technically my uncle, but we're just like around the same age, within five
Mm-hmm.
years, and a couple ladies at the bar found out that I was American. They wouldn't leave my side. At the same time, it's like extremely
Mm-hmm.
flattered, but I'm like, I am not. You are not objectifying me. You are not going to get what I
Nah,
got.
nah, no. I am.
Not even
Yeah, no,
close.
I am a proud American that don't need no Filipina.
Which is funny because normally I don't really date Filipino or Asian girls, and that's not due to like what I like. It's just I don't know. It's just I just realized like I never really like had a stable relationship with someone who was of Asian
Yeah,
descent.
no. Of the two girlfriends and well, now one fiance and one girlfriend I've had in my entire life, they have both been white. Like unabashedly white.
Yeah. Hey, you said it,
Yeah,
not me.
no, I mean, like it's unmistakable. Like it's not like oh, you could have this in your heritage. No, like you white, but it's
Yeah,
okay. Like
it's
I'm
funny.
perfectly okay with
It's
that. Like quite frankly, I'm pretty sure that my gene pool doesn't need any more Japanese or like some other mixture of Asian because, yeah, no, we need genetic diversity. We don't need genetic recidivism. Recirculation.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I think it's funny though, is because my track record is more ebony while yours is more ivory.
Yeah,
so
it's okay. Together we have a perfect piano of ongoingness.
Yeah, speaking of like from like last episode, Beethoven's playing. So there you go.
Yes, indeed, Beethoven. Yeah, it's a symphony of wonderfulness that is our. I don't want to say conquest because that has like a negative connotations.
It very much so does. I would change that word in a hurry.
Yes.
Very fitting. Very, very,
our
very
romantic
fitting.
accomplishments. There you go.
There you go. There you go. Single life is treating me mildly well, but I am focusing on other things.
Yeah, no, you gotta level up yourself so that when you do find your wonderful, wonderful, fine lady, that she thinks that you're actually worthwhile.
Bitch, I am worthwhile.
No, but she needs to think.
No, I'm
it.
just kidding. No. Yeah, got you.
She needs to think it. It doesn't matter whether you are. It matters whether or not she thinks that you are.
I mean, I guess that's fair.
No, I mean, I can't remember who said it, but they said the saying is, "I think, therefore I am."
I'm very familiar with that saying. I do not.
I can't remember
cannot recall
who the
said
quote
it.
is from. But ultimately speaking, perception is all that matters. Because until you know something, all you have is your perception of it.
That's true.
It's the same way we brought this up. I want to say in like one of our first talks. But
it's Rene Descartes.
Rene
by the way.
Descartes. Oh, wonderful. But basically, everything is an object until it starts talking to you. Yeah. Everything is an object until it starts talking to you. The second it starts talking to you, it becomes personal. It becomes a person.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
Dogs talk to you all the time. It's a person. Cats talk to you all the time. It's a person. Whether or not I like cats is a completely different story. I'm slowly liking the cat that exists in my life now.
Oh, you know what's funny? You talk about the cats. That's something I forgot to update you on. So, currently, the current situation about the cats is that we are keeping them separated. One of them is in my room currently, and she's actually looking at me.
She's
very
like
cutely,
staring at
knocked
me
out.
via the camera, or like staring up at the camera.
Yeah, she's like half sleeping, half awake. But we're keeping the two kids separated because guess what happened? Puberty hit, and it hit the male cat a lot harder.
Mm-hmm.
So he is starting to mount his sister. We're getting all up Game of Thrones up in here.
So are you gonna change his name to Jamie?
You wish. We're keeping them separated for the time being until one gets their balls snipped and the other one gets their tube tied. So right now we're on rotation.
I thought spaying was different. I thought it wasn't like but okay, gotcha. You're like
I'm using it as
gotcha.
Yes.
I'm like pretty sure one is a different it's a different technology for spaying.
Yes. But yeah, it was just referencing, Yeah. So we're just keeping them separated right now, and boy, have they been a handful, because they're finally big enough where they could actually sleep in my my room, and the problem is just like when I want to keep the male cat, Augie, when I want to keep Augie in my room, the thing I have to worry about is him being sprained.
Mm-hmm.
It's him sprained until he gets his surgery.
Yeah.
Which is actually going to be this upcoming week, which is going to be on Thursday. Oh, fun fact. Yeah, Thursday. So
that's pretty good. I mean, okay, so like my understanding of like that is most states have like they pay to make sure that cats are like spayed and neutered. Like you don't actually have to pay for it in most states because of the way that cats breed, like, and how they
Mm-hmm.
just end up everywhere.
It's a yes and a no. The difference is that it has to be for here in California. It has to be
Gotcha.
certain areas, certain parts, um, due to it being expensive. Like, cause yeah, states do pay for it. But one of the other things too is just like being able to provide them with that. I mean, it ends up happening more so when like they're put up to like pounds
Mm-hmm.
or humane societies because they're strays and they're
Yeah.
not pets that people want. Unfortunately, and that's the difference between um that's basically the loophole between our cats and those kind of cats is because they're
Mm-hmm.
pets, so they don't get that free treatment.
Which is really weird. You'd think that you'd actually. Well, my understanding is it's for population control.
Oh, very
So,
much so.
like, people pay for the service for their pets, but for the population control, they set out a cat wrangler, and like the cat wrangler like grabs him up, throws him into like his van or whatever, takes him to the Humane Society, where like all the males get their balls chopped off and all the females get like, their insides scrambled,
Yeah, so it's just
and then they're
like the
released
way you
into the
described it.
public, like for the sake of like reducing the amount of like cats that are able to continue to reproduce.
I
I
don't
don't understand.
I I don't necessarily think that it's they get released back to the public, but they do get put up for like
Or put
adoption
down, like
and
it. Yeah.
put down. Yeah, well, that's through pounds for sure.
Well, a lot of
Um,
humane societies do that as well. Like they're called humane societies because the idea is that if an animal will not be adopted and given a happy life, at least they won't suffer for long.
yeah,
Like, although I mercy killing is one of those things that's always been a little weird for me. I don't fully believe in it, like 100%. Plus, it kind of.
how about when? How about when it comes to adults, like not adults, humans?
So, like, I've always. So, my Christian upbringing says no, no killing for any reason other than self-defense or
Right.
the defense of others, right? If
Mm-hmm.
my actions to defend myself end up in the death of someone else, or if my actions in the defense of another's end up with the death of someone else, my conscience is clear because I believe that their actions were inherently bad because they were against me or someone I care about maliciously. Like,
Okay.
but so far as like people who are vegetables, people who are already
Mm-hmm.
brain dead, if their body can't support their life, I actually think it's more of a kind of a cruelty to keep their body alive if their brain is already gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. Like, so I'm a firm believer that it's the combination of the head and heart that makes the soul. So like consciousness
I can see that.
consciousness plus a beating heart. Now, this is where pro life gets into it. If a person is in a 9-month coma and they are guaranteed to be a functioning person after the 9-month coma, keep them alive for 9 months.
Yeah.
And that's where that argument stays. I'm going to keep that argument separate from the other argument.
Right.
Now, things that are unchangeable. I've seen there's actually this great motivational speaker. He was born without any arms or legs. I think his name is Nick Vujicic. I don't know if you've ever seen him. Dude can swim and he has no arms or legs. That's freaking amazing.
That's
Yeah,
dope.
no, he's probably got like ridiculous abs. He has like children and stuff. Like, yeah, no, this guy's like awesome. And I think his name is Nick Vujicic. I want to say it's Nick Vujicic. Either way, absolutely amazing. If you're of the mindset that a person who is severely physically disabled should be offed for the sake of their own sake,
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know how to like reasonably argue that, because there are people who do live absolutely wonderful lives despite any disability they may have. Like,
Yeah.
I think the possibilities of that person, plus like he's living a baller life, like he has like a wife and he has kids, and like he can go around and like meet other people and like be a positive force in the world despite not having any limbs. Same thing goes for there's this amazing TED talk about this. I think he's like 13 at the time, but he was diagnosed as like severely autistic, and he wasn't supposed to be able to speak. He wasn't supposed to be able to read. He wasn't supposed to be able to do anything for himself ever. But he's giving this TED talk. He taught himself to read. He taught himself to do math. And not only did he teach himself math, he taught himself math so fast that he like basically shot out of like high school collegiate level, and he basically solved like the ellipse of like one of the planets better than our current model for them, like just with pencil and paper math, like more than what all of our computers could calculate. He just did it. He just like to himself. And he's giving this TED talk, and like if his parents had decided that he wasn't worth the time, he wasn't worth the effort, or he wasn't worth the investment because of his disabilities, this kid wouldn't have done this. Like a lot of the geniuses of like the past century were also considered to be like severely disabled. Like Einstein, like he like fail the third grade or something like that. Like
something there was something that
like,
he wasn't able to do.
No, like there's something he just physically wasn't able to, like by all rights he was considered a failure, like for a very large portion of his life. And he, like at the patent office, he figured out relativity randomly, like obviously he had like
as
you do, like it's divine inspiration. Call it what you want, but I'm a firm believer that so long as life has the opportunity, it will find a way to benefit other life to some degree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like devoid of malice, people are inherently to some base level good, and therefore any life has the possibility of being good, and therefore weighs more towards good, keeping that life alive versus ending it. Now, in the case of animals have so many uses. Like, outside of just, like, being companions or anything like that. Could you imagine if we just, like, had a herd of cats that we could use to, like, I don't know, like, run a generator or something? Like give them, like, a hamster wheel or a cat wheel. And like have them like chase mice up the cat wheel or something. Like we could put them to work. Like they could have a value in theory. Like they don't need to like, and like of course we're talking about the utility of a cat generator, but cats always land on their feet. Toast always lands butter side down. If you strap a piece of toast to the back of a cat and hook it up to a generator, it's infinite energy. I'm just saying. No, that is like a really old internet meme.
It very much
super old.
You got me. I knew where you were going at first, and I was just like, he's not. He did. But when you say the whole aspect of like someone being inherently like in good without due to malice and anything that's happened to that, it brought back to the conversation. I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and they were kind of curious to know why I like villains in general, Disney villains, superhero villains, Star Wars villains especially. And the reason being is that a lot of it is due to what happened to them, right?
Yeah.
Like
show me a villain. Show me a villain. I'll show you where a hero went wrong.
Right. And like the only exceptions are like true villains that I don't like. So when it comes to like Disney, it's like my favorite Disney villain is classic Mickey and Friends Pete, right? But it didn't happen until after a Goofy movie, and there's an explanation for that. and who else is there? There's Scar. There's Doctor Facilier.
Mm-hmm.
Doctor Facilier is an interesting one. That's just due to because you don't know his history beforehand. But like the villains that and Ursula, right, from Little Mermaid. But other than that, villains that I dislike very much so is like, was it Mother Gothel from Tangled?
I would have to argue with you about that one because Gothel's a surprisingly like well written out villain. Like
Right, like she's
but
inherently a true
yeah,
villain.
no, because
right?
okay. So Scar was he was the second son. He like
Well, yeah. No. What I think you might have been confused because what I'm saying is like the villains that I don't like are the ones that are true inherently evil.
oh, okay, gotcha. Okay,
Yeah. Which the ones that I said prior
Yeah.
to that are like there's the reason why I like them
because they're-
is not only
yeah,
because
they're villains, but there's a reason for it, and it makes sense why they would end up
Right.
becoming villains.
right, like for example,
Mm-hmm.
Pete. Like I liked him before a Goofy movie, but I grew up with him from a Goofy movie and then Goof Troop
Mm-hmm.
and then so on and so forth. The problem with him is like, yeah, he's not technically a villain, but he's realistically just a dad trying to be the best dad he could be, just taking the wrong approach.
Oh yeah, no,
right?
he's my understanding is Pete was brought in like the Goof Troop and stuff as your stereotypical keeping up with the Joneses dad. Like
Yeah.
everything he does needs to be bigger and badder than everything Goofy could ever do. And he needs to brag about it. And it's to show that although Goofy and his family Goofy and Max live a humble life, it's not any less of a life. Like having
Right.
all these nice things does not make you a good person. Like it's
Right.
I can't remember. Hubris is they like to assign like the 7 deadly sins to like Disney characters all the time, and his is pride. Like he takes an inordinate amount of pride in everything that he does, despite him actually being terrible at almost everything he does.
Right.
Like,
And that's the thing is like he is a proud dad, but he just has the inefficiency to be a good
yeah,
dad.
no, like
And that's his character flaw.
he provides like Pete is his
PJ, yeah, Pete Jr..
Yeah, PJ, like he provides a really good life for his son. Like his son has access to all these different things and stuff, but their shared dynamic between them is really interesting by comparison because PJ's mom, she's a badass, by the way. She's amazing.
Yeah,
she's
she is.
awesome. Like I thought she was like super freaking like cool when I was a kid. Like I thought she was awesome because she's a badass.
Yeah.
But having that type of family dynamic where you have a very strong-willed individual for a father and an extremely strong-willed individual for a mother, it's really interesting that PJ ended up being so timid. Like,
Right. But you have to understand the fact that it's like when you have two parents who are, I have to say it, loud and obnoxious,
Yeah.
you don't want to be like your
Yeah.
parents a lot
Yeah,
of the
well,
times.
So the amount of thought that actually went into the creation of these characters and their like relations goes far beyond like that which you can attribute to just a normal cartoon.
Right.
And the family dynamics, like just from a Goofy movie, which is already an amazing musical. Like I can go off on for an hour at least on how amazing the Goofy movie is, but honestly speaking, there's a YouTuber that did it better. Look up Sideways, a Goofy movie, better than you thought. Really great YouTube video. Watch it.
It's such an underrated movie,
it's-
just straight out.
It is the Disney Renaissance personified. It is everything that you want from any Disney movie ever. And ultimately speaking, there's technically no bad guy.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
Like,
It's like that's why like technically Pete's the villain,
he's
but he's
not.
not.
He's not. And
He's
actually, the
not.
real villain is miscommunication.
Yeah, yeah,
The
it very much
entire
so is.
movie, the real villain is miscommunication. It's not anything like it. Like as a kid, I grew up watching like a Goofy movie and thinking, "Ah, come on, just let Max go to his concert. He just wants to go to a concert." But like the older I get, the more I realize like Max, stop being a little bitch and like go fishing with your dad. It's like
Yeah,
such a like great movie because you can feel both sides. Like I feel both sides of the argument so hard.
yeah. Of course
Like
you do.
like my parents are back in Hawaii. When I went back, all I wanted to do was hang out with my mom and dad and like go see things and like go eat food with them and stuff. But because the COVID restrictions and the fact that they are of a like they were limited, like I didn't get to have the full experience that I wanted in Hawaii because they couldn't go a lot of places. Like and they weren't
Yeah,
allowed to sit down and they weren't allowed to eat because the draconian mandates on the people of Hawaii. Like it
yeah. It was actually pretty rough for you
yeah,
guys.
no, it was it like I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have had mild results from receiving the first dosage of the vaccine. And by mild I mean full body aches for 3 days straight, like debilitating body aches for 3 days straight, and that's all my adverse reaction to the vaccine was. Like, mind you, talk to your doctor. This is not an advocation or anything like that. But whatever, I don't care. I don't care. It doesn't matter anymore. It's not a thing. But basically speaking, I it's a truly beautiful movie, and it really kind of puts a lot of things into perspective for a lot of people. So, like, good job, Disney. I'm just like, I rag on Disney all the time, but when they get shit right, they get shit right.
And it's a rarity, and it's usually underappreciated or undervalued. And a Goofy movie was extremely undervalued.
For like outside of nostalgia goggles, like straight out, like just objectively, it is a better musical than High School Musical. It is a better movie than probably, I want to say maybe like any of the non-main series Disney, like.
You have Atlantis. Don't forget that.
Atlantis is also super duper underrated and amazing. I love Atlantis so much. But we've already gushed about Atlantis for.
Yeah, we did. But no, I get what you're saying, and it's definitely one of those movies where it's like it's well rounded all around. But I think where the underappreciation came from also was the music and for the era.
Oh yeah,
it didn't hit the masses
No.
because you had Tevin Campbell, who was this like pop singer, but like the genre of music didn't approach a majority of the people that it was
targeted for, because it was already nostalgic music, which doesn't make sense for the movie until it becomes a nostalgic movie. So like Powerline is probably the greatest fictional superstar, and he's the first great fictional like pop superstar. Next is on Nickelodeon's side, Chip Skylark, right? They're the equivalent.
Yeah, we didn't think
they're
about
like
that,
the equivalent in two different universes. There's like My Shiny Teeth and Me is a similar bop to Eye to Eye. Like they're like pseudo equivalencies, but like it's not the same. Like it hits different. But I don't know. There's so much more to it too. Like, breaking it down as a musical, you get to see a lot of stuff. Breaking it down as an individual movie, you get to see a lot of stuff. As a coming of age movie, you get to see stuff. As a like parent seeing your child grow up type of movie, it hits a lot of like meaningful things. You have like the peer
Yeah.
pressure from other parents to raise your child a certain way because it's working so well for them. You have like interpersonal relations between like children, and you see hazing, and you see um like bullying, and you see other stuff like all represented all within a very very short period of time. You see like the dynamics of like what summer used to mean to people like as a kid.
Right.
Like summer's like this great time, you're like done with school and you like get like all this free time and stuff. Now like as an adult, when do I get a summer vacation? That's not a thing. You know, I don't get time off just because, you know, I've done all my work for like 9 months out of the year. I
Right.
don't get 3 months off.
Right.
Like, what
Exactly.
is this? Like, what is this BS? Meanwhile, like, going back to a cartoon, like, the Flintstones and the Jetsons were two different sides of the same concept, the same theory, which is society is either going to get so advanced where you only need to work 3 hours a day, or it's going to get we're going to end up destroying ourselves and eventually going back to a weird pseudo Stone Age. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, so like because the Flintstones exist in the future, they both exist in the future. It's just
We don't want to have that conversation
No,
just
no,
yet,
no.
Caleb. I don't think anyone's ready for
we'll
that.
have that conversation eventually, but like they technically exist at the same time, which I think is hilarious. Yeah, but this
But
these last two episodes have really been about music and how it kind of connects everybody. Like I listen to music in like a lot of different languages. Like I like listen to like Russian artists. I've listened to like German music. I've listened to K-pop, J-pop. I've listened to some Chinese like traditional music. I've like
interesting on that one.
it's because of well, I mean, I'm from Hawaii, which is like the giant cultural melting pot. So we went to like the Chinese Cultural Center and stuff, and I've listened to like some traditional Chinese like compositions, and they're kind of amazing in a really weird way because when you think of Chinese music, you only think of the Chinese pentatonic scale, but there's so much more, and they don't. It's different. Like the same thing with like Japanese music, how their music theory isn't the same as European music theory. Like, once again, Sideways on YouTube does a much better job of explaining this. But there's a reason why the music from the Miyazaki films sounds ethereal and nostalgic. It's because they don't have the traditional 5/3 conflict resolution, or like 7/1 5/3, you know, the regular 4 chords that we hear all the time in every single piece of music
And
ever.
almost everything.
Like,
yeah.
you can turn
Everything.
any song into a 4-chord song and people will still recognize it as the exact same song. Like,
Or it's
Yeah.
pretty much.
Pretty much. But like ultimately it comes down to the universal language that is music. Like, yes, there's like
Agreed.
different styles and there's different ways you actually like. It's weird because people listen to music differently. Like, yes, you could hear the exact same song playing, but some people only hear the backbeats. Yeah,
True.
like it's really different if you like I never used to be able to listen to reggae music because my brain doesn't like the rhythm, and like I honestly can't understand what they're saying like 99% of the time. So like that's my fault. Like that's all on me. You know, I've never been a fan of Bob Marley or any of the other great things. And I never really liked Hawaiian music, which is like a reggae local island style of music, until I had to like think about it
Interesting.
nostalgically, where like I grew up and that was always playing around. So when I went back to Hawaii, I finally had an appreciation of, wow, I haven't been able to listen to Common Kings in a while, and I haven't listened to like,
Oh, Common Kings.
yeah, no, I haven't listened to Brother Is in like forever. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it didn't occur to me that even though growing up there I didn't care for it, that I would end up caring for it because it wasn't around me anymore. So like I guess that leads into the whole absence makes the heart grow fonder thing. So
Common Kings, were you around? Were you around when they came through when I was working up there
I
in
don't
Portland?
think
Okay, that was a fun show. That was a fun show to work. Um, it was just hilariously funny, just because the type of the people that generally listen to them is some type of islander,
so. Oh yeah,
correct?
no,
Or some type of
it's
mostly islanders.
mostly Pacific Islanders to be specific. But yeah, I mean, actually, they might listen to it in Jamaica and Cuba. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I would think so too, because like there's a bunch of people that listen to like some of the music that like Common Kings. I was surprised that some people listen to it, right? But they were a fun show. The reason why it was fun is because generally the crowd's going to be some sort of Pacific Islander, whether it's people who are like Filipino, Guam, Hawaiian, especially Hawaiian, or any of those like Tonga and whatnot. And during the show, of course, it's like, "Hey yo, cuz, hey yo, cuz," it's just like, "Hey, let me see my brother over there," and I'm like, "Bro, no," just like telling him, it's like, no, I'm like, if you're family, if you're fam, I mean, you go talk to them. You don't talk to
Yeah.
me. And that was one of the biggest things, and I thought it was hilarious. But then those boys were really nice, and I really enjoyed their show, because they were also a really good crew of people.
Well, like the more I see live music, the more I realize that a lot of like really good musicians are also really good entertainers outside of that.
Yeah.
Like it was never brought so far to the forefront of my mind as when I went to see Michael Bublé. Because on top of being just an amazing vocalist and having like basically cornered that particular part of the market so far as like modern swing and modern big band music goes, like I can't think of another artist that does that right now other than him off the top of my head. Because like male vocalist music is like Josh Groban, Andrea Bocelli, the Romantics, right? He's
Yeah.
like the opposite side of that coin, where you have like speakeasy music and nightclub singing, that type of stuff, which is like
Yeah.
slowly falling out of style, but has its own cult following and stuff. But like on top of honestly just being an amazing performer, he is also incredibly entertaining. Like
True.
telling,
Very,
telling
very, very true.
stories and like talking it was really funny. Like he told this joke about how he had to tell the punchline of his jokes several times over because everyone here
Did he really?
because everyone here in Portland is stoned out of their minds. Because everyone in Portland is here stoned out of their minds. So like the second time, like, everyone's like laughing like the second time around because by the time he finishes telling it the first time, they're catching on. So they all laugh when he wants you to laugh, which is like crazy to actually get the correct comedic timing on as a musical performer, like as like a singer. Because like most of the time you don't think of singers as being comedians.
Yeah.
Or
No,
like
that's
having
true.
any sort of sense of humor, unless you're a comedian that uses song as your form of comedy, like Bo Burnham does.
Bo Burnham, Weird Al,
Yeah,
technically Adam Sandler.
sure, I guess.
I don't think you've heard like
I mean,
on
The
a lot
Wedding
of
Singer is basically an entire musical comedy.
well also like if you've ever seen any of Adam Sandler's SNL skits from the 90s, there's a bunch of bits where he sings in a lot of his
Oh
skits.
yeah, there's also Eight Crazy
That's where
Nights,
the
which was the Adam Sandler animated movie.
yeah, but the Hanukkah song came out before that, and it's just like that's where I feel like when it comes to Bo Burnham is like a lot of inspiration comes from that kind of stuff for sure.
Well, yeah. Well, Bo Burnham's really interesting to me because he came out of nowhere and became like the funniest thing around. And it actually drove him to a deeper depression because he's so like he's really intelligent. He's an incredibly intelligent guy, like on top of like everything else. But I guess like that his depression is introspective. So like essentially because he thinks that his stuff is so trash that everyone likes it, it makes it even worse for him because he feels like he kind of explains it really, really well at the end of his Make Happy special. Like which was on Netflix for a while. I'm pretty sure it's probably still there, but like it's really kind of crazy that you by making other people happy, you can actually it'll make you sad if you think about it a certain way, or if you overthink it. Ultimately, it's just because he's overthinking everything. And he's too smart for his own good. And that's where you get the whole ignorance is bliss kind of thing. Like, if I were to overanalyze everything the way that I tend to do, I would probably be a much sadder person, but I've learned to stop thinking about certain things. As a necessity. And, like, a defense mechanism, I guess.
Yeah. And then there are some people who can't, right? Who can't stop thinking. Who constantly have to keep going or constantly have to
rehash things that they've never been able to resolve. Ultimately, it comes down to not being able to come to a meaningful resolution.
Yeah.
So the people who will go through past wrongs and stuff and not come to a conclusion of how they were supposed to have done something. People I can't remember. There's this great quote, but it says people who are optimists forget the past because they know that it's not, even though it's already happened, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen again. People who are pessimists can't appreciate the future because the past is weighing down their present. Like,
right.
and like I'm like butchering this saying, I'm butchering this like quote, obviously, but you kind of need a balance of both optimism and pessimism for you to be. I think that's in and of itself kind of a weird thing, because I say that you have to have a balance, because balance is the existence of things all at once in a proportion that is acceptable. And then who decides what's acceptable of that particular balance? And I guess it's different from person to person to person. But if we were all like neutrally like meh on all things, life would be really freaking boring.
Oh shit, I didn't realize today was the 28th.
Yeah, no, it's the last day of February, my bud.
I have to check my bank account.
Yeah, that's a good idea. First of the month is tomorrow.
Yeah. I just realized. Sorry, side note to the audience. I have adulting, and today was a very big adulting day, and I totally lost track that tomorrow's the first of the month. So yeah. Anyway, back to the story. You're just there smiling, smirking, just like, oh shit.
No, I'm just checking up on making sure all the bills are paid and stuff, because
oh, I reminded you.
No, I'm just like double triple checking. I normally pay my bills like ridiculously in advance for the exact reason of I never want to be like, oh shit, I didn't pay this.
Well, normally I put it on my calendar, so that's like the big thing. And I just want to make sure that I am stable, that money's not missing and money's not being allocated in elsewhere or other endeavors or frivolous things that I don't need. With the exception of there's one, okay, so there's